Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Chad Wittfeldt. Thanks for being on the show, Chad.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on. I know a lot of the listeners right now are trying to figure out how to build systems, how to create those funnels, working on branding, all those things. And you're going to give us a lot of insight today. I know it's a specialty of yours. So, but a little about Chad. He started investing in the equities market when he was just 17 years old, and a few years later moved over to currency markets. Real estate had always interested him, but he didn't know how to effectively get into the market at that time. He joined BlueSpruce Holdings to apply his skills building digital systems while learning about real estate. And today, he's partnered on over $30 million in real estate syndications, and it is by far his favorite asset class because of the collateral. I can't even say that word. That's such a big word there, Chad. I know he put that in his bio on purpose. Controllability of your inputs and outputs, risk aversion, and tax incentives. So, Chad, thank you again for your time and being willing to come on and share with us today. And because I know it took me a long time to build those systems. It took me a long time to think through, what's this thing everybody's talking about, a funnel? What is that? And trying to figure out this branding process, because it can be very, very time consuming, and there's a lot to it, especially if you're going to do a good job at it. So, but Chad, give the listeners a little more about who you are in case they don't know who you are already, and then let's dive in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction. Like I said, my name's Chad Wittfeldt. I live here in Denver, Colorado. Been syndicating real estate for about 3 years now. Always had some entrepreneurial tendencies and knacks, and I was the kid who had a landscaping crew at 16, doing the neighborhood. So it's kind of always been in my blood. But it wasn't until I joined my first company with a partner that I really started to focus in on the branding and the systems and processes behind it. And it was primarily because our competition was crushing us. It was an education provider company for trading stuff, and we were just getting blown away by our competition. And so I just became obsessed with the things that other people were doing right. And it really led me into this world of creating leverage inside of your brand through those systems.
That will get you, or something like that to push you, right? Figure out what do we need to do here to make this happen. Okay. But you transitioned into real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think, like you and I had discussed beforehand, I just think a lot of the listeners are going to be able to relate to the story, because we have talked. I've talked so many times personally about, because I get the question all the time, how do we get started? How do we get into this business? I don't have any experience, and I have no track record, so I'm like, okay, you have to figure out, how you can add value to some team. And you're a prime example of what I talk about all the time, is that you are going to be a lot better at social media and all this digital stuff, than a lot of groups that are already well established. You're going to be able to just jump right in there, and that's what you did, right? But elaborate on how you made this transition and you jumped into real estate and really by bringing value.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the quick story. It's a really good story. So my business partner, Adam Adams, I was just moved to Denver. I lived here for maybe 2 days. And prior to, I had a fallout with my previous company that I started. I left that partnership. And to be honest, it took a lot away. I was pretty broke from that fallout. And so I was just at this place trying to get my head right, riding bikes at these bike parks and all everything. And I meet this guy. He's putting his bike away. I'm pulling mine out, and I just wanted to meet a friend. I said, "Hey man, that's a sweet bike." And we just started chit-chatting back and forth. And I said, "What do you do, man?" And he says, "Oh, I just started up with this team. We're buying real estate, apartments." And I said, "Really? That sounds pretty cool. I've been investing a long time. I've always wanted to get into real estate. I just never knew how." And he said, "Come to my business partners meetup group, and you can meet him and hear a little bit more about what we do." And the room was packed. It was Adam's meetup group in Denver. And there's probably like 40 people there. I show up 5 minutes late as they're getting introduction started. I'm the first kid that gets the mic. I'm like, like choking up. And Adam has a swarm of people around him, and I'm just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. I go up to Adam and I introduce myself. I said, hey, I talked to Brad. I've been interested in doing this. And he asked for my business card. And I said, I don't have any business cards, man. And he goes, well, come back next week with a business card and you'll be the type of person I want to work with. I'm like, okay. So I get in my car and I look at the nearest Vista print to get business cards. And I drive to the parking lot looking at the door. I'm like, crap. What am I going to put on this business card? I have no company. I have no logo. And so I called Adam. I said, look, man, I'm not going to print business cards because I want my business cards to say BlueSpruce on them. Let's figure out how to work together. I can be an asset to you. And we became business partners ever since. So it's pretty cool, man.
You called and said, I want your business or your company name on my card. So
exactly.
Before I print these. Wow.
Yep. So let's make it happen. And I started off really just trying to find us deals. Like this was really early in our journey. We hadn't done a deal yet. And I basically was just cold calling brokers. And we would meet once a week to see how things were going. And I just remember sitting down with him one week and he's like, how are things going, man? I'm like, this sucks, man. This is not working well. And we started talking about it. And I said to him, I said, I'm having all these conversations and I'm getting sent single family houses. I'm getting sent empty pieces of land. I'm getting sent things that just don't even matter. And then I had said to him, I said, what if we can position ourselves and our company so that deals and brokers start to find us as well as investors? And then I showed him what I had done with marketing and branding in my previous company and really just laid out how it would apply and how it would look for us in this business. And that's where things really started to take off for us.
Okay. So, I like how you came to him or especially with the business card thing, you're like, I want your, that company name on my card. And so that's awesome. But then you laid out a plan, you used your expertise and laid out a plan of what could happen or what you could help make happen in their company. And sounds like, and looks like that's worked pretty well. But it allowed you to get into the real estate business and you didn't have to become that like expert underwriter or expert, deal sourcer or acquisition specialist, or like you used your skill and added a lot of value to a team that needed that skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to even put a little bit more clarity on it, like I didn't know what a cap rate was, debt service cover. I knew nothing. You asked me what a rent roll was. I said, Red Lobster's got great rolls, man. Let's go get some. Like I knew nothing about the business. But I was able to leverage that skill set I did have and bring it to the table, and got my education through doing the deals along with my team. So it's a cool way to kind of create that win-win synergy in the business.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that plan that you laid out, and let's kind of walk into some system building or, things like that the listener needs to have in place as well.
For sure. A lot of times people, when you say the word funnel today, a lot of people just think it's a squeeze page or a landing page. But there's a lot bigger of a funnel where your landing page and your squeeze page sits inside. And at that top layer of your funnel is typically your traffic, right? Those are the people like this podcast, for example, you have X amount of people listening to you. And you can create this platform on really anywhere, whether that's an in-person meetup group, whether that's doing Facebook Lives, interviewing people, whether that's a Facebook group. There's so many places to procure traffic from. But the key here is to understand what you want to do next with that traffic, right? It's great to get 100 likes on your post. It's great to get 50 comments on your Instagram post or story or whatever. But if they're not coming into your business with a profitable ROI, then what's the point? It's just vanity metrics. It doesn't really matter if they're not actually doing something in your business. So what I really focus on is starting with the end in mind, because it's really important to understand that people that come into your world are going to resonate with things differently depending on where they're at in their journey with you. Okay. So let me just give you an example. Let's say I'm doing a 506C deal and I can advertise this publicly. And I've tested this to prove it many times. And I think that I can go set up a Facebook ad and target high net worth individuals to come into my real estate deal at, say, $100,000 minimum. Well, just because I can publicly solicit that, somebody isn't going to wire over $100,000 because they saw a Facebook ad. That's not how that works, right? So it's really about building that substantive relationship through your content, through the things that you're doing online, to funnel people into that ROI and build as much rapport along the way as you can.
No doubt about it. You got to have that relationship component, whether you can advertise or not. They need to know a little more about you before they're going to hand over 100,000. And all right, so I guess help us. I'm trying to build this funnel. Go ahead and walk through a little bit of that. We're starting with the end in mind. We're thinking about different people that traffic you're talking about. They're going to be in at different places in their investing journey. They're going to be in different places as far as how much they can invest, how often, all these things, their education level of investing in real estate. So what are some other things we need to be thinking about getting, this traffic through this funnel?
For sure. So let's start with the cold people. These are the people that are just now coming across you for the very, very first time, right? This type of funnel, and again, in this instance, I'm saying funnel as a lead magnet, or I'm sorry, as a squeeze page, as an opt-in page. And I use ClickFunnels to build these. So they're just now coming across you for the very first time. They haven't really built any substantive relationship with you. This is where putting a lead magnet in front of them can be really valuable to get them into your system, so that you can automate some of that process of warming up that relationship, right? So you have your lead magnet funnel. Let's just say the top 5 things every passive investor must know for the next recession. The top 6 things your financial advisor will never tell you, right? That type of lead magnet, right? That's an asset that you can go and shout out on podcasts. You can have a link to it in your Facebook and your Instagram, whatever. But having a place for people to come into your world is really important, and understanding that this is for cold people. Okay. Now that next layer of this process is to ascend that relationship. I call this my golden brick road, or your value ladder, right? And now you ascend them to something that has a higher ask, right? Whether that be a 30-minute webinar or a 35-minute podcast episode or a 5-video mini course all about passive investing, right? It really comes down to what your ideal investor avatar is looking for, and then go and give them that. But if you think that you come across somebody, they've never met you before, and you think you can ask them for an hour of their time to come on a webinar, it's not really realistic. They're not paying you, but they are exchanging that level of time that you haven't necessarily built that level of trust and rapport with yet. And then from there, ascending them from that webinar to a phone call, and that phone call into an investor into your deal, right? So starting with, again, the end in mind, and understanding that there are layers to get your investor into your deal. It's not just throw up a Facebook ad. It's not just putting up a post saying, who wants to invest in apartments with me? Obviously, that's probably illegal, right? But you have to be strategic, right? Like when I first got started as an entrepreneur, 16 years old, I was super ready, fire, aim, like all the time. Now I'm very, very ready, aim, fire, and very strategic with these processes that I build. Because if you're not, they just don't work that well.
Yeah. And I like how, you talked about right off the bat too, like focusing with the end in mind. Because if you're thinking about that person that you're speaking to, who are they? What are they looking for? And then you're going to be able to build back to, how you're going to be able to educate them the best, build that brand or that presence with them, and then all the way back to the lead magnet and what they're looking for, right?
Exactly. And I think, especially in my world, just because I study this stuff and I'm obsessed with it, I see it all the time. I see people trying to brand themselves online in our syndication space, and they're trying to speak to everybody. And when you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. And it can do a lot of negative goodwill to your brand, especially if you're posting, affiliate links for every other conference. You're posting things about beauty product MLM, and then you're a real estate investor. And like, you have to have brand continuity and hyper focus inside of your brand to the exact person you want to have coming into your deals or bringing you deals. So yeah, that's kind of my preach, honestly.
No, that's it's very valuable. Yep, very valuable. It's what do they call it? Like the 2,000 true followers or something. Is more valuable than 100,000 that barely know who you are.
100%.
Something like that. So, so tell us a little bit about the systems you recommend on the back end. Because everybody I get asked, I'm sure you do all the time, about okay, what CRM and what how do you manage all these emails and these email campaigns, and how do you do that?
Yeah, for sure. Right off the bat, my CRM and automation platform I use is called ActiveCampaign. That's where all my funnels drip into, right? So you opt into my list, it's going to ActiveCampaign. The thing I like the most about ActiveCampaign is it's the only thing they do, right? You have platforms like Infusionsoft. You have all these other platforms that try to be good at everything, and they wind up being pretty okay at everything. Like they're not amazing at one thing. And that's what I love about ActiveCampaign is they're certainly, I think, the best in the business. I've never seen any other platform spend more time and money into R&D than they have. And a lot of the innovation coming through their features is super powerful. So for sure, ActiveCampaign, it's a CRM plus email automation and a lot of other automations as well. Super cool thing. I use ClickFunnels to build my front end. The coolest thing about ClickFunnels is you can take a dummy like me who's never learned how to write a piece of code in his life, and I can go and build a funnel that's raised over $7 million. I can go and build a funnel that we've done over, $100,000 of event revenue for, right? Like, so you can do that without having to know how to write code. Anybody can go and do it. It takes time to learn how to be really, really good at it. But it's a great place to get started.
Nice. Okay. So ClickFunnels, and you mentioned that's like the front end. So like that's where, you would capture that traffic you were talking about right in the beginning. Is that right?
Exactly.
And then that's where they're going to get signed up with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to sign up. They're going to collect that lead magnet, whatever that was, those 6 things about passive investing or whatever you were talking about. And then from there, they're going to go into ActiveCampaign. Is that right? And then they're going to go into email sequences and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. The other thing that I'm pretty passionate about is having clean data. If I have, let's say you're on my email list, Whitney, and you've never clicked through one of my emails. You've never clicked through a link. You've never done anything with me, right? I want to know that. I want to score that. I want to have my contacts have a score so I know who's hot and who's not, who loves my stuff and who doesn't. So having clean data is super important. To go back to that other question, I think the 2 primary systems that every syndicator should have is going to be that lead magnet follow-up system, so that you can have a cold piece of traffic, a cold audience come into your world and start to take substantive action towards your ROI of investing, whatever that is for whoever's listing. And then number 2 for us is to launch a deal. All right, this is a funnel that really makes your deal look amazing. And like what most syndicators are doing are just emailing out an offering memorandum. It's 30 some pages long. There's maybe only about 2 pages of information that people actually care about, right? So the webinar launch funnel, it takes that information that people care about, puts it front and center, and they can decide really, really quickly if they want to register for your webinar instead of just registering on Zoom or somewhere else. Definitely much, much higher conversions when you're sending that type of traffic to a better looking place, not just a registration page on Zoom.
I think it's important you brought up the scoring component of a platform like ActiveCampaign, and other platforms like that will do that as well. But that's I mean, it's a lot of information there that you need to know about somebody that could be very useful. But I also wondered your thought process as far as how many emails are in a email sequence, or how are you, how far out are you scheduling that, and what happens if somebody gets to the end and never clicks, on anything else?
Yeah, for sure. I like to start every one of them with the 5-day Seinfeld series. This is a little bit different than just a normal drip, right? Because those first emails set precedent and set the frame around what's coming next. And if those first 5 emails don't get opened and those people aren't like, oh my gosh, Whitney just added so much value to my business, they're not going to be looking and opening up the rest. So the 5-day, you just got to hit them really hard, and they got to be written really well, and have that copywriting be speaking like specifically to them, almost to the point where they feel like you only sent it to them and nobody else. So those first 5, like those are your time to shine. That's your first impression on your email list for sure. And then we have, gosh, I don't know, over 100 that are automated after that. And those really just come from educational topics that we've come across throughout our deals, right? So one of my favorite sayings is questions are always content. A lot of the people listening to this, if you start putting yourself out there online, people are going to start asking you questions. How does depreciation work on a syndication? What happens if I want to get out of my syndication? And you can, like, what people need to understand is this is a gold mine for content. And so we have a lot of emails automated after that. But depending on, I like to build them linear. So depending on what actions they take specifically, they'll get thrown into a different flow. So let's say the first 3 emails after my 5-day, they click through, they take action. Well, they're going to get thrown into another flow where I ask them to get on a phone call with me or our investor manager very, very quickly, because they're taking action. They're hot. You want to capture that when they're hot. And if you never make the offer, they're probably not going to take it because it's not there, right? So there's a lot of different flows in that sense. But if somebody gets through your email list and never does anything, and you've sent them 50 messages and they've done nothing, take them out. It's probably a dead contact. There's no reason to even like waste your metrics on that contact. It's all, so yeah, that's just me.
No, that's awesome. Well, I mean, unfortunately, we were running low on time, Chad, but we've got a few final questions for you. But I thought maybe you could speak just a minute to the listener about branding. They're getting started. Maybe just speak to them about, getting their brand started and a couple of things they should focus on. Because I know a lot of these things we've talked about maybe way over their head. A lot of times if they haven't started any of this, and a platform like Active Campaign may seem so complicated and way ahead of them, but just thought you could speak to somebody that's like, okay, I'm doing this, but I don't have any systems yet.
For sure. Number one, most of the platforms have free tutorials and education. It does take time, but you got to understand once it's set up, it's there. It's an asset in your business. It can go on your balance sheet if it's built properly, right? As far as the branding goes, just get started. Everyone tells themselves the same story. Oh, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not interesting enough. I'm not a model. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's just not true. It's just not true. And the other point I'd like to make is you don't need to have a successful podcast. You don't need to have all these things. Just get started. Like go make a video on Facebook. Go start creating content. Go get started, and then stay patient because it does take time. And if you think that you can build this massively successful brand in a month, it's just not how it goes. So
that's great advice. Yeah. Being patient. Yeah. I mean, I tell everybody, you're going to start a thought leadership platform, plan on doing it a year before you see any return at all,
Yep.
So just have that in mind. But, well, Chad, what's a way that you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours?
Got a VA and started subcontracting out some of the elements that I'm not a 10 at. So like, for example, I have a new designer on my team that's designing a lot of my stuff, and we've never put out a more beautiful product because he's a better designer than me, right? So factoring in, obviously, A, what's that going to cost? And then B, where you can allocate that time elsewhere. If you're not a rock star at that specific task, you probably shouldn't be doing it. That's helped me out a lot. And then creating my own thought leadership platform as well. I don't have a podcast. I don't have all these things, but I do have a Facebook group where it's all about branding. It's all about systems. It's all about this cool stuff that I'm really talented with. And being able to create that type of platform has added a lot of value back into my business as well.
So on that note, tell us how you like to give back.
Yeah, for sure. That Facebook group, man, have just been blasting that thing with value, literally just giving everybody what they need to do this stuff. So like I was speaking on earlier, the ideal investor avatar, one of the cool things I have in my Facebook group is a checklist on how to develop your ideal investor avatar, and what it looks like where they live, how old are they, what are their occupations, what do they care about, how do you find them, how do you get in front of them, all these cool things that help you really focus on who you want to be speaking to. So yeah, my Facebook group is how I've been giving back recently.
All right.
Sure.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, building a brand is no easy task and can seem so daunting when you're getting started. And even through it, like I learn stuff all the time. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, that's going to cost how much? But is it going to be worth it? And it seems like such a, big thing, but it's really getting started and just knocking it out as you go, and because you grow and you get better systems. So anyway, but nobody starts at the top, that's for sure.
Exactly.
So Chad, thank you very much. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you and your Facebook group.
Yeah, for sure. Find me on Facebook. It's Chad Wittfeldt. That's the place I've been most active recently. Hop in that Facebook group. It's just Raising Money Secrets, OPM, for real estate investors. I've done live trainings in there on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on all kinds of cool things. Those assets are still there waiting for you to go consume it and take massive action on it.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.